September 1, 1939. A single radio broadcast shatters the morning calm. Germany has invaded Poland. In that moment, the world holds its breath. This is not just another border skirmish. This is the spark that ignites the deadliest conflict in human history. Welcome to World War II, the war that changed everything. The story of World War II does not begin with tanks rolling across Polish fields. It begins 2 decades earlier, in a railway carriage at Compiègne, France. On November 11, 1918, the guns of the Great War fall silent. Germany signs the armistice, but the Treaty of Versailles that follows is no peace. It is a punishment. Germany loses 13% of its land, all colonies, and its military is gutted to 100,000 men. Reparations of 132 billion gold marks crush the economy. Hyperinflation hits. A loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks by 1923. In Munich beer halls, a failed artist and decorated corporal named Adolf Hitler watches the chaos and vows revenge. Across the Pacific, Japan eyes expansion. The 1931 invasion of Manchuria tests the League of Nations, and the League blinks. Italy, under Benito Mussolini, seizes Ethiopia in 1935. Spain descends into civil war in 1936. German Condor Legion bombers level Guernica. The world calls it appeasement. Hitler calls it weakness. In Berlin, 1933, the Reichstag burns. Hitler seizes emergency powers. Dachau opens, the first concentration camp. By 1938, Kristallnacht shatters Jewish shop windows. Anschluss annexes Austria. The Munich Agreement hands Czechoslovakia's Sudetenland to Germany. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain waves a paper, Peace for Our Time. 6 months later, Nazi troops march into Prague. On August 23, 1939, the impossible happens. Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a non-aggression treaty with a secret clause carving up Poland. 1 week later, at 4:45 a.m., the German battleship Schleswig-Holstein opens fire on Westerplatte. Panzer divisions slice through Polish defenses in blitzkrieg, lightning war. Luftwaffe Stukas scream overhead. Poland's cavalry charges tanks with lances. Warsaw falls in 27 days. Britain and France declare war on September 3rd, but do nothing. The phony war begins. 8 months of eerie quiet. In April 1940, Hitler ends the silence. Denmark falls in 6 hours. Norway resists longer, but German paratroopers seize Oslo. On May 10th, the real storm breaks. Panzer columns punch through the Ardennes, terrain Allied commanders deemed impassable. The Maginot Line, France's billion-franc fortress, is flanked. Rotterdam is bombed flat to force Dutch surrender. By June 14th, Nazi troops parade down the Champs-Élysées. France signs armistice in the same railway carriage used in 1918. Hitler dances a jig. In London, Winston Churchill replaces Chamberlain. His first speech as Prime Minister: I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. Across the Channel, the British Expeditionary Force is trapped at Dunkirk. Between May 26th and June 4th, Operation Dynamo evacuates 338,000 men using fishing boats, yachts, and destroyers under relentless Stuka attack. Britain stands alone. In Asia, Japan joins the Axis in September 1940. The Tripartite Pact links Berlin, Rome, and Tokyo. Emperor Hirohito's generals covet oil-rich Indonesia and rubber-rich Malaya, both controlled by European powers now crippled by war. The United States, neutral but alarmed, freezes Japanese assets and embargoes oil. Tokyo faces a choice: withdraw from China or strike south. Admiral Yamamoto warns, "I can run wild for 6 months. After that, I have no expectation of success." In the Soviet Union, Stalin purges his officer corps. 3 of 5 marshals, 90% of generals executed or imprisoned. Red Army performance in the 1939 Winter War against Finland is disastrous. Hitler sees weakness. On June 22, 1941, Operation Barbarossa launches. 3 million German troops, 3,000 tanks, 2,500 aircraft smash across an 1,800-mile front. Leningrad is besieged. Kyiv falls, 600,000 Soviet prisoners. Moscow's outskirts are reached by December. But winter arrives, and the Wehrmacht, in summer uniforms, freezes. Across the Atlantic, America watches. President Roosevelt calls the U.S. the arsenal of democracy. Lend-Lease sends Britain 50 old destroyers, then billions in aid. U-boats sink American merchant ships. Isolationists like Charles Lindbergh warn against foreign wars. Pearl Harbor is 7,000 miles away, until it isn't. By late 1941, the board is set. Axis powers control Europe from the Atlantic to the Volga, Africa to the Arctic Circle. Japan dominates East Asia. Only Britain, the Soviet Union, and distant America remain outside the grip. The world has never seen war on this scale. Continents as battlefields, civilians as targets, genocide as policy. The fuse is lit. The explosion is coming.
December 7, 1941, 7:55 a.m. Hawaiian time. The sky over Pearl Harbor fills with 183 Japanese aircraft. Torpedoes slam into Battleship Row. In 2 hours, America's Pacific Fleet is crippled. President Roosevelt addresses Congress, a date which will live in infamy. The sleeping giant awakens, angry. For 6 months, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto plans the impossible. Japan needs oil. The U.S. embargo strangles the empire. Strike first, strike hard, buy time to seize the southern resources area. Target, Pearl Harbor. 6 carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, Shokaku, Zuikaku, sail 3,500 miles under radio silence. On November 26, they depart Hitokapu Bay. Crews believe they are on maneuvers. They are the spearhead. At Pearl, Sunday morning is lazy. Sailors sleep off Saturday liberty. Battleships line up neatly, perfect targets. At 7:49 a.m., Commander Fuchida signals Tora, 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 surprise achieved. Kate torpedo bombers skim the water. Val dive bombers scream down. USS Arizona takes a bomb through the forward magazine. 1,177 men die in seconds. Oklahoma capsizes. West Virginia settles in flames. Only the carriers, Enterprise, Lexington, Saratoga, are at sea, spared. By 10 a.m., 2,403 Americans are dead, 1,178 wounded. 18 ships sunk or damaged, 188 aircraft destroyed, most on the ground. Japanese losses, 29 planes, 5 midget submarines, 64 men. Yamamoto's gamble works, but not perfectly. Fuel tanks, repair yards, and submarines remain intact. The carriers live. He later warns, "I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve." That afternoon, Japan strikes everywhere: Malaya, Thailand, Hong Kong, Guam, Wake Island, the Philippines. In Manila, General Douglas MacArthur's Air Force is caught on the ground hours after Pearl Harbor news arrives. Half his bombers are lost. Japanese troops land at Lingayen Gulf. By January, Manila falls. Bataan and Corregidor hold out, but starvation looms. In Washington, isolationism dies. Congress declares war on Japan with one dissenting vote. 3 days later, Hitler declares war on the United States, his fatal mistake. Roosevelt now fights a two-ocean war. Germany first becomes strategy, but the Pacific burns hottest. American rage fuels production. Shipyards work triple shifts. By 1942, the Essex-class carriers begin sliding down the ways. Draft boards swell. Rosie the Riveter posters appear. Japanese Americans, 120,000, are rounded up into internment camps. Fear, not evidence, drives Executive Order 9066. In the Philippines, 75,000 American and Filipino troops retreat to Bataan. They fight with 1918 rifles and no air cover. On April 9th, Bataan surrenders, largest American capitulation ever. The Bataan Death March begins. Midway, Guadalcanal, Stalingrad, Tunisia. The Axis reaches its high water mark. The Allies prepare the counterstroke. Pearl Harbor's smoke has cleared, but its lesson endures. Underestimating America is fatal.
June 4, 1942. 1,000 miles northwest of Hawaii. 4 Japanese fleet carriers steam into a trap they cannot see. American dive bombers fall from the sky like avenging angels. In 6 minutes, the Imperial Navy loses the war. This is Midway, the battle that breaks Japan's back. Admiral Yamamoto's plan is elegant. Lure American carriers into annihilation, then seize Midway, forcing the U.S. to negotiate. He commits 4 carriers, 11 battleships, 248 aircraft. Nimitz knows, thanks to codebreakers at Station Hypo. He has only 3 carriers, 233 aircraft, and Midway's runways. Enterprise, Hornet, Yorktown versus Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu. The odds look grim. At 4:30 a.m., Japanese strike first. Midway's defenses scramble. Marines rise in obsolete fighters. PBY Catalinas spot the enemy fleet. American torpedo squadrons launch. Devastators, slow and vulnerable. Torpedo 8 from Hornet is wiped out. Only Ensign George Gay survives, floating in his life vest. Torpedo 6 and Torpedo 3 suffer the same. Zero fighters shred them. No hits. But the sacrifice draws the Zeros low. At 10:22 a.m., 37 dauntless dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown arrive unopposed. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey's instinct saves the day. He follows a lone destroyer to the heart of the Japanese fleet. Bombs fall. Akagi takes 3 hits. 1 ignites fueled planes on deck. Kaga explodes under 4 bombs. Soryu burns from 3. Within 6 minutes, 3 carriers are mortally wounded. Hiryu strikes back. Yorktown is torpedoed, crippled. But her sister carriers return the favor. Hiryu burns by evening. Yamamoto cancels the invasion. Japan loses 4 carriers, 248 aircraft, 3,057 men, including irreplaceable pilots. America loses Yorktown, 1 destroyer, 150 aircraft, 307 men. The carrier gap is reversed. Japan will never replace the loss. Nimitz cables Washington. Pearl Harbor has now been partially avenged. Southward, the Solomons ignite. On August 7, 1942, the 1st Marine Division lands on Guadalcanal. The airfield, Henderson Field, is seized. Tokyo sends the Tokyo Express, nighttime destroyer runs, to reinforce. The Battle of Savo Island, August 8 through 9th, is a disaster. 4 Allied cruisers sunk, no Japanese ships lost. But Marines dig in. Malaria, dysentery, and jungle rot kill more than bullets. Naval battles rage nightly. Cape Esperance, October 11th, Americans win. Santa Cruz, October 26th, Japan sinks Hornet but loses 148 pilots. By November, the naval battle of Guadalcanal, 3 nights of carnage, costs both sides heavy. Japan evacuates the island in February 1943. 6 months, 7,100 American dead, 24 ships sunk. Japan loses 31,000 men, 38 ships, and the initiative. In the Atlantic, 1942 ends with hope. Allied convoys adopt Hedgehog mortars, escort carriers, and long-range liberators. U-boat losses mount, 90 in 1943. Donitz withdraws wolf packs from the North Atlantic by May. The Black Pit is closed. North Africa pivots. After El Alamein, October 23rd to November 4th, Montgomery's 8th Army breaks Rommel. 30,000 Axis prisoners. On November 8th, Operation Torch lands 107,000 American and British troops in Morocco and Algeria. Unseasoned GIs face Vichy French, then Rommel's veterans. By May 1943, Tunisia falls. 250,000 Axis surrender. The Mediterranean opens. Mussolini's empire crumbles. But the Eastern Front is the crucible. Stalingrad, August 1942 to February 1943, is hell on the Volga. Hitler demands the city. General Paulus's 6th Army, 330,000 men, fights house by house. Soviet sniper Vasily Zaitsev notches 225 kills. Factories keep producing T-34 tanks while under siege. In November, Operation Uranus encircles the Germans. Red Army pincers meet at Kalach. Paulus is trapped. Hitler forbids retreat. Göring promises 500 tons of daily supplies by air, delivers 100. Winter bites. Frostbite, typhus, starvation. By January, the pocket is 30 miles by 15. Paulus surrenders the southern pocket January 31st, the northern February 2nd. 91,000 Germans march into captivity. 5,000 return home in 1955. The Wehrmacht loses 250,000 men. The Red Army seizes the initiative forever. In the air, the combined bomber offensive begins. RAF Bomber Command switches to night area bombing, 1,000 bombers over Cologne, May 1942. The USAF's 8th Air Force arrives in England. B-17s and B-24s fly daylight precision raids. Schweinfurt ball bearings, Ploiești oil. Casualties are brutal. Flak and fighters shred formations, but the Luftwaffe bleeds pilots it cannot replace. Technology races. The Manhattan Project, born in 1939, swells to 130,000 workers. Los Alamos, Oak Ridge, Hanford, secret cities. In Germany, Werner von Braun's V-2 rockets rise from Peenemünde. In Japan, the Zero loses its edge to the F-6F Hellcat. Resistance hardens. In Warsaw, the Jewish Fighting Organization plans uprising. In Yugoslavia, Tito's partisans control swaths of territory. In France, the Maquis sabotage rails. SOE agents parachute in. OSS begins. At sea, codebreakers rule. Enigma is cracked at Bletchley Park. Ultra-intelligence routes convoys around U-boats. In the Pacific, Magic decrypts Japanese naval codes. Midway was no fluke. By mid-1943, the Axis is overstretched. Japan's outer perimeter cracks. Germany's eastern armies reel. Italy wavers. Roosevelt and Churchill meet in Casablanca. Unconditional surrender is the only terms. Stalin demands a second front. The Allies plan Sicily. Operation Husky. The tide has turned. Not victory yet. 1944 and 1945 will demand rivers of blood. But the strategic initiative is Allied. Japan's carrier arm air is gutted. Germany's best divisions fertilize Russian soil. The Mediterranean is an Allied lake. American factories pour out 86,000 aircraft in 1943 alone. The United Nations, now 50 nations, coordinate. Civilians pay the price. Hamburg, July 1943, Operation Gomorrah. 43,000 dead in firestorms. Tokyo, Dresden, Coventry, Nanking, Manila, cities burn. The Holocaust peaks in 1943 to 44, 1.1 million Jews murdered at Auschwitz. Japan's rape of Nanking is repeated in Manila, 1945. Yet hope flickers. The Big Three, Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin, plan the post-war world, however uneasily. The Tehran Conference, November 1943, sets the stage. D-Day is coming. So is the atomic bomb. Midway and Stalingrad are the hinges. Before them, Axis momentum. After them, Allied inevitability. The road to Berlin and Tokyo is still long, but the destination is clear.
June 6, 1944, 6:30 a.m., Normandy coast. The largest invasion fleet ever assembled, 7,000 ships, 156,000 men, hits 5 beaches. Omaha runs red with American blood. Utah, gold, Juneau, sword, Allies fight inland. This is D-Day, the beginning of the end. Operation Overlord is 2 years in planning. Eisenhower commands. Deception, Operation Fortitude, convinces Hitler the blow falls at Calais.
Dummy tanks, fake radio traffic, double agents. Rommel builds the Atlantic Wall, 6 million mines, 13,000 strongpoints. He is on leave June 6th. The weather is foul. Eisenhower risks it. Okay, let's go. At dawn, 2,400 bombers and 800 gliders soften defenses. Paratroopers of the 82nd and 101st Airborne drop behind Utah, scattered, deadly. British 6th Airborne seizes Pegasus Bridge. On the beaches, Omaha is slaughter. 2nd Ranger Battalion scales Point du Hoc under fire, finds empty gun emplacements. By night, 175,000 Allied troops are ashore. 10,000 casualties, 4,400 dead. The lodgment holds. By July 25th, Operation Cobra breaks out. Patton's Third Army races across France. Paris rises August 19, liberated August 25. Hitler's Ardennes gamble, Battle of the Bulge, December 1944, costs 80,000 American casualties but fails. Bastogne holds. Nuts. The Rhine is crossed March 1945. The Reich shrinks. In the East, 1944 is annihilation. Operation Bagration, June 22nd, anniversary of Barbarossa, erases Army Group Center. 28 of 34 German divisions destroyed. Red Army advances 400 miles in weeks. Warsaw falls January 17, 1945. Auschwitz liberated January 27th, 7,000 survivors found. The gates of hell close. In the Pacific, island hopping accelerates. Saipan, June 15th, 31,000 Japanese die, 3,400 Americans. Civilians leap from cliffs. Tinian and Guam follow. B-29 superfortresses now reach Japan. Tokyo burns March 9 to 10th, 1945. 100,000 dead in one night of fire. Iwo Jima, February 19th to March 26th. 6,800 U.S. Marines dead for 8 square miles. The flag raises on Suribachi. Okinawa, April 1st to June 22nd. 12,500 Americans, 110,000 Japanese dead. Kamikaze sink 36 ships. At sea, Leyte Gulf, October 1944, the largest naval battle ever. Japan loses 4 carriers, 3 battleships, 500 planes. The Imperial Navy is finished. American submarines sink 5 million tons of shipping. Japan starves. In Europe, the noose tightens. Mussolini shot by partisans April 28, 1945. Body hung in Milan. Hitler marries Eva Braun April 29th. Commits suicide April 30th. Berlin falls May 2nd. German surrender signed May 7th in Reims, May 8th in Berlin. VE Day. Europe celebrates. The Pacific rages on. Roosevelt dies April 12th. Truman inherits the bomb. The Manhattan Project succeeds. Trinity test, July 16th, Alamogordo, brighter than 1,000 suns. Japan rejects Potsdam Ultimatum. On August 6th, Enola Gay drops Little Boy on Hiroshima, 70,000 instant dead. August 9th, Fat Man obliterates Nagasaki, 40,000 gone. Soviet invasion of Manchuria same day, crushes Kwantung Army. Emperor Hirohito broadcasts surrender, August 15th. Formal signing aboard USS Missouri, September 2nd, VJ Day. The cost? 60 to 85 million dead, 3% of the world's population. 25 million Soviet, 15 million Chinese, 6 million Jews, 6 million Poles. Cities in rubble. Berlin 70% destroyed, Tokyo 50%, Hamburg 75%. Europe starves, Japan occupied. Nuremberg and Tokyo trials begin. Justice or victor's law. The world is remade. United Nations founded October 24, 1945. Cold War seeds sown at Yalta, confirmed at Potsdam. Iron Curtain descends. America sole atomic power for 4 years. Bretton Woods sets dollar standard. GI Bill educates a generation. Israel born 1948. Decolonization stirs. Yet heroism endures. Audie Murphy single-handedly holds off a company. Violet Sabo, SOE agent, executed at Ravensbrück. Desmond Doss, medic, saves 75 on Hacksaw Ridge, no rifle. Tuskegee airmen shoot down 112 enemy planes. Navajo code talkers, never broken. Science leaps. Penicillin saves millions. Radar, jets, rockets. V2 becomes Saturn V. Computers, Colossus, ENIAC, crack codes, predict weather. The war that killed also birthed the modern age. From Versailles humiliation to Hiroshima flash, 1939 to 1945 reshapes everything. Borders, ideologies, technologies, morals. Never again, swear the survivors. But Korea begins 1950. Vietnam 1955. The lesson is fragile. The guns fall silent. Europe rebuilds with Marshall Plan, $13 billion. Japan rises under MacArthur's Constitution. Article 9 renounces war. Atomic age dawns. Space age follows. The war ends, but its shadow stretches to today. This was World War II. Not just dates and battles, a human story of courage, cruelty, sacrifice, genius. The generation that saved the world is nearly gone. Their story must not be.